but welcome. So yes, my name is Amanda Jenkins and I shall be doing this session today. I have been with Silvalea for 24 years next month. So during that time, I've gained a massive amount of knowledge on understanding slings, their shapes, what they're suitable for and not so good for. So I want to share some of that knowledge with you because I know slings can be a mystery. There seems to be hundreds and hundreds of different styles, but there are actually only 6. So we're going to look at the 6 standard sling shapes this morning and understand what each of them can do and what they're not so good for. So that's the plan. To start with, is anyone there still that can turn their cameras off, please? Got a couple. If they wouldn't mind turning their cameras off and muting their microphones, then it would help. Okay, can we get any messages to these people or not? Brilliant. So yes, if you can kindly turn your cameras off, the latecomers, cameras off and mics off, please, and use the chat for any questions, and that'd be helpful. Right, to start with, I'm going to ask my colleague Rhiannon just to bring up a poster. We've got some really good literature that will help with supporting the sessions, and we can get these to you, or most of them are downloadable on the website. So if we can kindly just show you what we're covering today. So standard sling shapes. So although you may think there are, many versions, most sling companies will have a version of these 6. So these 6 sling shapes on the left of here, and lots of adaptations to that style, but they are based on one of those 6. So this poster just details briefly what they're all about, what you can add on to them, and where to take the measurements. So we'll cover all that, but we'll start, if you can just scroll back, that's it. Start with the very first shape. So I've got my colleague Judith here. Judith's also an old girl, and certainly she's on the phones a lot, so she'll help. Well, you cover schools, healthcare, hospitals, care homes. So, always available for queries as well. So we may have spoken to Jude. But what we're going to talk about first is I'm just going to show you, this is a standard product, but I want to talk about some of the requirements for a sling. So the most important thing is that you've got a very clear, legible label. So the label on Silvalea slings now are woven, so they will then not fade. They shouldn't fade when laundered. So everything on the label is woven, the safe working load, the washing temperatures, any safety features, all that's got to be clearly visible. If it's not visible, then it will contravene the loaner regulations. So you must always check prior to use that you've got a good clear label. If in doubt, withdraw it from use. But a really good clear label, all the sizing, the codes, everything's detailed on there, along with a size label here. So generally across the board, the sizing is small is red, medium is yellow, green is large. That's general across the industry. When you go higher or lower, it can vary. But we've got a colour-coded size label there, along with the sizing, colour coding of the handle. There is also a service label. So this is also in line with loaner. So loaner state that you need to check all your hoists every 6 to 12 months, as well as the products going on that hoist. So this label is there so that you can notch out when the service was done. Often it's just logged somewhere, but we offer that for you. And there is a unique serial number and barcode for traceability. But we also would encourage you to check the sling prior to use. So it's just a very common sense look at the sling. So looking to make sure the binding is intact. The threads haven't snapped. There's no breakdown or pulling. The label is clear. So everything on that sling, you can be reassured that it's fit for purpose. The sling won't fail unless something's happened. because we have really strict guidelines here. So all the components on this product, the fabric strength, the binding, the webbing, the stitches per inch, the threads are all calibrated regularly to ensure that we have a product that's fit for purpose. So you need to check. If these tapes are caught in a non-directional way, they can eventually wear pull, but applied in the correct direction, then the breaking strength is enormous. Standard slings will have a safe working load of 220, which is 35 stone. So even the smaller sizes, up to extra large, will have the same safe working load. And that's because everything's being tested regardless of size. So you can be reassured that this will take that weight. Washing of standard products is up to 95 with a low tumble dry. Excessive heat can accelerate the wear, and we certainly can tell if it's been exposed to a high temperature, the wadding will shrink and become distorted. Strong biological powders will fade colours. So if you've got a colour on the sling, the binding will fade, the webbing, anything with colour. So we do encourage a good quality non-biological powder. So it's things like that. And that's all detailed on the label. So you haven't got to remember everything, it's all there. So that's the sling details. Standard slings will have handles on for guiding, positioning. More specialised ones probably won't because of pressure, but the standard ones will certainly have a handle. Are we okay so far? Any questions, Bree? We're good? Okay, so let's look at the first style. So the first style is our fast fit. So this is a really well-known shape. It's the first full body sling that most people use or offered. Very well known within the industry and called lots of things. So we call it a fast fit. You might know it as a quick fit, easy fit, general purpose, universal. All those names refer to this shape. So the key thing is to get to know the shape and understand what it can do. Because we know names can vary and it's very confusing. So we're going to put this on Judith and just explain features of this shape. It's got a divided leg. So divided leg slings you can put on in a chair. We are going to use a nice open chair. So we are cheating and making it look really easy for the presentation. And of course, we're not doing any moving and handling training. This is purely product-based information. And Judith's very helpful. So it's going to make it look really easy. But with a sling, if you're applying it in a chair, the key thing is to get it to the base of spine. Base of spine. So right down to the base here, to the seat. If you don't take it low enough, those leg paddles then are going to come around and they'll fit too high and bite into the groin. So the key thing is to get the sling down and wrap the legs towards the back of the knee. So we know we've got it low enough. So smooth the legs round. These have got padding on, but take them towards the back of the knee. They will naturally readjust as you hoist, but to start with, you know then you've got the sling low enough. You start by prioritising the top bit, getting that in line. Then it may be that you're positioning it too high. That will sort itself out as we hoist. But the key thing is get it low. It's really important. The standard way of applying a sling is to cross the legs, and there's a loop to do that. If you don't cross them, then the legs are naturally going to splay. It may be that that's the preferred position, but that's what you have to work out when you're doing your risk assessment. But standard instructions will tell you to cross them like that. Colour coding on the tapes. So there's colour coding depending on positioning. Certainly you can then alter if you find that your patient's too upright or you want to recline them. So there's options. It's just working it all out. We'll start the standard way is to start with a short shoulder, long leg. So if we just put this on, Jude. short shoulder, long leg, and we'll see what position we get. And I am going really back to basics here, and I apologise if you know this, but for those that are having a bit of a refresher, it's useful just to cover as much as we can. So before we go too far, it's always important then to check that we haven't got the chair caught up. The tapes haven't flipped off. Judith, all right?
Yeah.
You all right? Right. So let's take you.
Your sound has gone.
We're back.
I can hear you now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't know what happened there. Got a bit of a gremlin. Don't know. Yeah, keep us posted if anything happens. Let me just recap then. This is the full body. We've got someone else with a hand up. Is there a question or query? Just check in case there's any. Do we know? No? Okay. Full body sling, giving full body support. Very straightforward application. I mentioned about the aperture here. So I would say this is a really good standard sling. So standard application, standard conditions, symmetrical shapes. So think about that as a standard option. If Judith was a bit active and extended, really good at doing, then the leg sections are going to shoot into her groin and be really uncomfortable. So think about that type of situation. We wouldn't use this shape. Equally, if she had a significant curvature, scoliosis, twisted over, you can then see that the legs won't adjust to give support. So she could be hanging out of that one side. So in that situation, we wouldn't use this. The other thing that happens is as these leg sections come through and go up to the hoist, they can slightly externally rotate the hip. So as they go up, the leg of the sling pulls through and can do that. So anyone that's got pain, arthritis, osteoporosis, any significant pain to their hip, I wouldn't use this. So treat it as a very standard general shape. If that makes sense. The other thing, we can do the standard shape in a mesh. So this is the polyester. So the mesh is a wholly type fabric that can be used for bathing. And we can add a head support. All the standards can have a head support added. So this is a mesh version with an arch head support like that. We just put this around Jude. It works, so it fits exactly the same, but it has this head support. So it's arched around here. It will have these bones in, but they can be taken out if you don't need them because you've got a head support tape that can be adjusted here, and that fits through the shoulder there with a slider to adjust for tension. So that's can be added on to standards. Thank you, Jude. The other option is before you think about a head support, we do often suggest trying, you might be spinning a bit with the neck roll. So this is an accessory that can be added to most styles and it just fits in the neck. But rather than a full head support that can force the head forward, you've got this option. And again, these sliders open up and thread through the shoulders. But once it's fitted, it's on, but you can see it would just nestle nicely and be often more comfortable just to have it in there. And if you've got someone that leans to one side, let's turn you around, we can adjust it, feed it to the side, useful for that type of situation. So we're okay with this as the very first shape. Are we okay? Any questions, Ree? I'll just actually, while we're just slowing Judy down, Ree, can you just bring up the data sheet? So on the website, all the information is available, so you haven't got to worry about remembering everything that we're covering, because the website's really, really helpful with lots of information sheets. We'll just share that with you. So this is the first one we've just looked at, fast fit. There's some good photographs. There's the standard fabrics. You can see here clearly how it fits on the body. Underneath there's various information, data sheets, sizing guides. This is a fully encompassing information sheet. I'll talk about sizing in a moment, but you know, everything's there for you. Thing size, where to measure, so that you've got that at hand, codes and etc. Safe working load, things like that. So they're all downloadable if you need to print those off. Hold that minute. Are we okay so far? Any questions, Ray? We're good? But the second style then I'm going to show you is the Fast Fit Deluxe. So this is the Fast Fit Deluxe, which is a very different shape. It's quite square, you see, and has a extra tape. So we'll look at it compared to the first one. We'll look at this and put this on Judith. Again, it's a divided leg sling, so you can apply it in a chair. And again, the key thing is ensure you've got the sling to the face spine. And then these leg paddles wrap around each beam fully. They come through. They are padded. And they wrap through here. And then this one has a modesty strap. So this is a modesty strap that connects the legs together. So like that. And then an outside tape, that long outside tape that feeds through one of the loops on the inner leg, depending on the size of the thigh. So this now is picking the legs up from the outside. So comparing it to the first one that came through, that could cause that external rotation, this picks up from the outside, so much more comfortable. Much better option if you have got someone with pain. Look it up. Again, the colour-coded loops there. Very short shoulder, long leg. Good. And just take up the slack. Just slightly so we can double check. Got it all on. Okay. Yes. So you straight away, what's very obvious is this area is better. So the first style, you've got the tapes really coming up. And depending on your type of hoist, you know, you've got the tapes coming up in front of that patient. That can be a little bit alarming. This style, because the legs are being picked up from the outside, you've got more freedom there. Although it's a bit more fiddly to put on, the carers can master that. It's much more comfortable. So if Jude's a bit wriggly, those paddles have individual control over those legs, so much better. Thank you, Judith. If you're slightly asymmetrical and you twist about, you know, the legs adjust. So a deluxe leg like this, a Fast Fit Deluxe, it is better for that type of situation. The divide here also is good if you're going to apply it or take out of a sling, a chair with a pommel. So that type of things is good. The other thing is, it is still a full body sling, so it's giving full body support, but there's an aperture. So again, if you need to support someone because they have no tone or full tone, you still can do a toilet transfer there. It's a much more generous shape. On Judith, this is quite big. There's no head support, but it's naturally giving her one because of the length. So sizing is always tricky. Some styles you may find you're in a smaller one. It depends on the tailoring. It's like clothing, you know, some some shops you're maybe a different size to another, but it is down to the tailoring. But what we do say is to check sizing if you've got access to the sizing guide. Let me just get to the measure and I'll show you. Then you can check. I've taken a couple of measurements and it's the shoulders. So round the shoulders, just a little bit down from the top, where it's a little bit broader. It's right round, circumference, right round. And it's important that you've got your patient in a nice up midline position rather than all bent over and arms stretched out. So, you know, when you're hoisted in this position. So if you can measure like that. And the other measurement is C7, knobbly bit behind the neck, down to the base of spine. There to the base of spine. Not where you think the sling's got to go. So the formula has been sort of set to be at the base of spine here, top of the bottom there. So those two measurements, mostly, some styles will ask for a different one. But if you look at the sizing chart, and then you can see if the patient will fit in comfortably to a standard. They may sometimes overlap. We often get that, so you have to mix and match sizes. Although if they don't, then just call us and we'll help you with sizing. Maybe that something more tailored needs to be known. Before Duke takes that off though, I just want to explain this style, because it's got these really square legs like this. You can lay the legs on top of each other like that to create like a seat called a hammock. So this style is the Fast Fit Deluxe, sometimes known as a Quick Fit Deluxe, Easy Fit Deluxe, or hammock, because of the way it will hammock. We've just finally done that. So you lay the legs on top of each other, and then connect the legs together, take the long tape through the small one, and then it will pick up in a seat. Let me explain. I might need to, let's go on yellow. So with this type, you don't want to be too upright because you're quite vulnerable then. So we'll just take you, let me just slightly recline that and back it a bit. So this might be more preferable to someone who wears a dress or skirt that doesn't want a divided leg scenario, or their legs are fixed together. So it might be an option. It will close the aperture up here. It closes that aperture up, and it will push the legs together. So you think you may crack one issue and then have another one, but because it closes the legs together and forces the hips together. So got to be mindful of that. But if you have a very compliant scenario, and you have, they're not likely to reach and fall forward, then it's a possibility that this can be done very well with this shape. We could add a chest strap. So all the standard things, you can have a chest strap that will fit on the chest, just under the chest for a lady, or on the waist, depending on where you want it. Often people will stay, they want to avoid a peg, or they want it in a specific position, but that's just to give it a little bit more security. It's also good for positioning. So for carers, if they know they've got a waist support, they can get the sling in position and they know it's at the waist. So the belt's at the waist, they know the sling then is going to then adjust accordingly. Are we okay, Ree? Any questions? So thinking about this, the Fast Fit Deluxe, you can have it in mesh with a head support. And things like that can add extra things or change the fabric. The other good use of this style has been for amputees. So amputees are always slightly worrying because if their limb is short, then the worry is that there's no weight and it can then ride up and slip back through the aperture. You have to be mindful. But if the residual limb is longer, so knee and below, standard slings could be considered. And this is a really good option. So we know it's been used for that type of thing. So the leg paddles will wrap around that residual limb. So an option for long limb amputations. So we've seen two, getting there. The third style we look at, that is the Universal Deluxe. This is slightly different. It's a deluxe leg, so you've got the paddles that wrap around the femur. It's slightly more shaped, so it's more angled. The leg sections here angled, and they're not so big, so they won't hammock. You can't lay these on top of each other because they're shorter, but a much more discreet shaped sling. Certainly there's less fabric. It might be then the sizing is different for this one. Still a divided leg, so we put it on, we can put it on in a chair to the base. Again, making sure you get it right down to the base here so you can get the leg paddles wrapped around the femur. This one, as I said, is slightly smaller, so you just need to check the sizing for this. And I've got an extra tape there, which I'll explain in a moment. But you've got a little modesty loop at the top there that connects the outside tape through. A bit neater, but it's still giving you individual support. Yellow. Right. So this is the Universal Deluxe. So this is a really good shape. It certainly for me, it's one of those go-to shapes that we know has been very successful. So I would always say that if you can, try this one. Again, you've got the outside pickup, so it's giving support to the femur. Freedom here, so you haven't got that tape between the legs there. It is still a full body sling. You can see here, it's offering full body support right here. Full body support, but still with access with hygiene. And then these femur supports here. Again, it's also a very good option for long limb amputees, because you can see that there is support there for an amputation. And if Judith was wriggly, again, individual control by those legs, a really good option. Thank you, very good, Jude. Also, she had, a significant curvature. The legs naturally adjust. So this particular shape is a really good go-to shape. And what I've done is I've added a tape at the hip. So this is extra. And hip tapes can be requested, but they certainly work very well with this style. And what they can do is they can lift the bottom. So if you've got someone that's really slumping and they're really sinking, you can put a tape here and it just subtly does that. And by doing that, it will distribute the weight. It distributes the weight and takes pressure from behind the knee. So if you've got painful joints, heavy legs, then adding a tape here is a really good option. And they are detachable. You can have them fixed, but they come with a slider adjuster, so you can adjust the tension. But they're not on, just not on. And then you adjust it by sliding that buckle, and you need to set it at the same tension as the leg, so they pick up simultaneously like that. At the moment, it's doing nothing, so I need to lower Judith down to set that tension, but it will just literally lift that area. If it's too tight, then it's going to force the pelvis up. So, it's going to force that pelvis up. So you've got to get the setting right. But they are really, really useful if you're problem solving. The other good thing is, and funnily enough, I had this query this week, is that we had a lady who literally was falling to the side. And I said, well, if you adjust the tape slightly asymmetrically, it will really help. to pick up that one side. And just by doing that, we'll make it a more comfortable and safer transfer. The same if you want to change the pickups. So we've got this on yellow, but if Judith was leaning right over, you could put red on one side just to counterbalance that lean. So, you know, I know you guys have to be imaginative, and certainly by doing that, then we will get a better position. This thing's perfectly capable of doing that. But it's a great shape. This is the Universal Deluxe, a really great shape for many scenarios, active users, wrigglers, asymmetrical shapes. So I certainly would suggest that this is considered. Again, it can be in the mesh, you know, head support, waist support, chest support, and these hip tapes, as I said, are really good option. How are we doing?
Someone's just asked, which model is more suitable for a bariatric patient?
Okay, so bariatrics are a whole new area for us. We have a lot of knowledge, but interestingly, not many requests, although it's getting more often, you know, frequent. So bariatrics, we have a specific range, and they're on the website, but they are basically two styles. And the first style is very much this shape, so that you've got individual paddles around the leg. So this, all the standard slings will go up to extra, extra large or 35 stone. Beyond that, then we look at a specific tailored sling to suit a more disproportionate body shape. And that's when we look at the bariatric. But have a look at the website and you'll see, because we do specific tailoring for the different shapes of bariatric person. But the standard sling is based on this. And what we do is we have an inside tape. So outside tape here, and this inside tape goes up to the hoist as well. So it's supporting that leg fully. So often the legs are very heavy. So you've got two tapes here, but very much based on this. So if you think about, often a bariatric person actually isn't 35 stone, they could actually fit into a standard shape. Have a look at the sizing guides for the extra large, and you might find that, think about that shape as well. But if you've got any queries about that, just come back to us or email customer services. We'll go through that later at a different time. Any more questions on this one? So that's three styles. Okay, I hope you're still with me. We've seen three shapes. The fourth shape, then we will bring in the recline. So this is a different shape. And I've got it on a mobile waist to show you a different option. This is an all-in-one shape. So this is very much an oblong, basically. So it needs to be applied on bed. It's very tricky to get it on in chair. And it is all in one. And I've got it set up as an amputee situation at the moment. So you can see how it would work for any type of amputee. So this is a really good one if you've got a high through hip, single bilateral. So a great shape. The recline, in situ recline. So this is often made in a specific fabric, because once you've got it on, it's hard to get off. So make it in standard fabric is this Superfine Plus, which is our spacer three-dimensional mesh. And once it's put on, you've got this little pommel strap here. So this little pommel here will lift the legs and help to slightly splay them, which gives better balance. Whereas when we saw Judith in the Fast Fit Deluxe that we hammered, it forced her legs together. Well, having this little pommel here just slightly lifts that centre and balances the legs better. It's quite useful, although it's another thing to fit. It has a purpose. So I would think this is also a really good versatile sling. Great for many situations. particularly if it's been left in because you've got no aperture there, then you can't carry out hygiene transfer. And it's not so good for wrigglers. Wrigglers, active users, you're quite vulnerable. It's also not so good for asymmetrical shapes because you can't adjust anything. So there's still a little, there's issues with it. So great for, compliance situations or in situ standard type of amputees. It does come with a loop here. So this loop is the loop that you can have an additional hip tape if you need it. That's why that's there. Also can have a head support, or the neck roll works really well with this. So, you can add things on to this if needed. Any questions on that one, Bree? So this is the recline, in situ recline, and it's that oblong shape. Again, it's on the poster, so you get to see certainly more clearly when after we've finished.
It's suitable for bathing, Mandy.
Yeah, bathing. So any sling made in a mesh, well, actually most slings can be used. Some will clog with water a bit more, but this is a spacer mesh, so useful for bathing if needed. And sometimes it's often requested because it's softer than the standard mesh. We fit grotty. So this Superfine Plus is a softer mesh. So just another point. So I'm just thinking about hoists. So we've got a mobile here with these 3 points either side on this spreader bar. Hoists are really, really important. So if you've got someone that has significant pain and you're trying to get a sling onto a narrow spreader bar, everything's going to wrap around and cause additional pain because it's going to protract their shoulders and really force the sling to sort of wrap too tightly. So if you've got a significant situation like that, think about their width, the widest point or wider to take the sling tapes out so that you're not going to add to that pain. Because hoists are very important. And also this has got 3 points, that one had 2. But if you have someone that's literally folded over and you want to try and open up, you could have a 4 point. Take the sling tapes out and that will open up and help to distribute the weight and reduce pain in significant cases. So it's very important you get the right match. Most companies will do a variety. It's just understanding, actually, some people are stuck with that hoist. They've only got that. And sometimes it's the hoist and not the sling. So it's worth checking. Okay, right. I'm just going to actually I'll just leave that here a moment. I don't want to bring that in just yet. Sorry. There's some chaos. We'll swap in a minute because I want to just talk about the toilet and sling. Sorry, just take that down. So that's sling number 4. The 5th style is our toileting sling. The toileting, hygiene, access, dressing, whatever you like know this as, this is roughly what it's all about. There's not much to it. So you can see that you need to ensure that you've got enough support to cope with this. Silvalea version will have a waist support with Velcro, which is great as long as it's closed when not in use and it's not all clogged up. So if it's clogged up, it won't be effective. So ensure that it's closed when laundered as well. And we've also got the trunk clip buckle. And the top of the legs on our version has this like scalloping here, which will give you a little bit more access. But the other thing that we have is that the waist support is stitched as wide as possible. So right around, it comes right around here to give more support. There are some that we've seen that are stitched back here, which means that there's a little bit more play, but these are stitched as far as possible. So it does give that extra bit of support. Carers love these because, of course, you haven't got to struggle too far to get them on. They fit around the trunk. And you've not got to then get it down to here, the tighter chairs. So it is easier to put on. So once we've got the waistband on and the clump click, then we can add the leg sections. They're quilted. Get that through. Just make sure it's flat. And again, ensure that you start by applying it towards the back of the knee. It's really a really good tip to make sure that you've got the sling low enough, and it's going to give as much femur support as possible. Then there is a loop at the bottom to use to cross the legs together. Just I think we'll go on green. Just take up the slack. Twisted, not twisted. Once we take up the slack, we'll then see the access. This is what the beauty of this style is. So we can get to the belt line really easily to then remove clothing. It's more dignified than having your clothing removed beforehand. So it is a popular requested sling because of that. You can see here that the scalloping here means there's more access here. But the worry is Judith had variable or poor tone that she's going to slip through. And that can happen. So what I'll do now is just to give you a couple of tips just to help lengthen the life of using this shape, because there's three useful pointers to share that will make a significant difference if you need to use this style. So the first tip is to fit the waist support at the waist. Here's a waistband, a chest band, and it needs to fit under the bust of a lady. There's no point being on top, because as the body sinks in, it's going to ride up. It's got to be low and firm at the waist. Start low, which I know is tricky, because if you've got a big tummy or a big bust, it's hard, but it may not be suitable. If you can't fit this firmly, then it's just going to slip and ride up. So then you have to think about another style. So get that low and firm. Just start again by touching, bring off on. Arms are on the outside. This one's got padding under the arms, which I'll show you in a moment. So what the next tip, what generally happens, so you're in the chair, the waist takes up the slack, your body naturally then thins out. At that point, this waistband is going to loosen off. So it's important to double check, and if necessary, pull on that webbing to keep the waistband down. Just check. Do everything we can to keep that down and firm. Right, Jude, can you go through now? Excellent. Okay. You bringing these up? So it's made a massive difference. Not slipping. So fitting it low, fitting it firmly, and readjusting. And then the third tip is, if you still feel there's some slipping, it may be worth going down in size. So you can't have this type generous in size. Don't allow for growth. It's got to be really fitted firm. So it may be that you need to consider a smaller size. So if you check under the arm here, this one has padding, but you don't necessarily need the padding, because if it fits properly, it won't bite in. So a couple of finger width under the axilla there to ensure that you've got it in the right place. If you're finding it's doing this, then it's either not fitted low enough, it's ridden up, or it's too big. or sadly, then your patient may just not have enough tone to cope with it. So hopefully that will help you with this shape. We do have many other options which we don't cover today, but there are other slings that will give you really good access if needed. Just need to look on the website. But it's tricky to remove clothing, I have to say. You know, it takes a bit of practice, and you've got to have loose, baggy clothing. And it's a good tip to get them zips undone, buttons undone, push the clothing down before you put the waistband on, so it's not caught up underneath that band. So that's the dress thing. Any questions, Ray? We're good? So that's 5. We've gone through 5 styles. All of them has a story, basically, and so, you know, it's just understanding that shape and when it can be used. And all those 5 have had loop fixings. So loop fixings that go on hoists with a hook. If you have a stud type hoist, and we'll just swap these over, do different bring in. So a stud hoist is very different. I will show you in case it's relevant. If it's not relevant, then you've got one less to think about, which is great. But it's a very specific hoist. And with what they call a wishbone shape. So if you have this type of scenario, then you need a specific sling that has a stud clip here. This is our universal clip that locks on and clicks on. A definite firm click for security there. And it's a very specific shape. So we call this the hide easy. It always comes with a head support. It's very simple. Divided leg comes through here. The sling legs are quite short because they're only going to the hoist just above the knee. So even if it's an overhead, it'll have the same cradle as this mobile. So very specific shape. And if you have this type of hoist, then you're limited to styles, unfortunately. So you can only have a couple of different styles because there's nowhere to add extra clips. There's nowhere to put hip tape. You can't use those nice deluxe legs, just fitting it in the middle. Nowhere to put the outside tape. So it does limit you a little bit if you've got significant complex scenarios. So, as I said, if you don't have this type of style, then you don't need to worry. But if you do, on the website, we've got our products arranged in loops or clips. So quite easy if you've just got loops, always follow the loop section, or clips, the clip section. So it helps you in that respect. So that's it, basically. Those are the 6. Everything we do is based on one of those 6. Our highly complex ones, all the other styles, in situ. There's loads of different versions of them, but they're always based on one of those. So if we're problem solving, we'll understand the condition so that we can then start with the shape and then look at the fabric, look at any add-ons, look at the materials, and then sizing. So, you know, we do definitely go to the style first. So please, you know, if you're still unsure, then look at the website or email us and we'll go through anything again. But are there any questions, Ray?
2.
Okay.
If the sling rides up, does this mean it's not the right size, or will all slings move a little bit?
Okay, so slings riding up. I'm presuming you're talking about the dress sling. So as I said, if the sling rides up, then it's going to be because the waistband isn't fitted properly, or it's not firm enough. If you've got someone with really good core strength, then it won't matter. you know, because they can hold themselves up. The waistband may then be loose. But, you know, you've just got to be mindful that they could lose tone. So certainly then, you know, you've got to fit it low and firm. The other way, other things riding up could be that the legs are too long or too short and they're pulling up, or you've got the tape's not going on, so they're picking up symmetrically. So sometimes if the shoulder tapes are tighter, they'll force the sling up and pull the legs back. So it could be you've got to sort of make sure you're picking up symmetrically. Otherwise it will drag the sling back if you don't. But other reasons for riding up, and you're thinking.
She has just said it specifically with the in situ. That's in there.
Okay, so if it's in situ, think about if it's in a reclined seating system. Again, you might have a shorter shoulder and then it drags up the back of the sling first, and it'll pull everything back. So it shouldn't. You'd have to know the individual situation to be able to comment properly on that. So if you have a really major problem with it, just email customer services and we'll try and link up and have a look, make some suggestions. Could be it's just too big. And
Someone else has asked what is the wishbone hoist used for?
okay, wishbone hoist. So this is what we call the wishbone. And it is a really good shape. It's mostly supplied in the acute setting. So because it's very simple. You've got to put the sling on, clip on the shoulders. You've got no worry about how many loops, clip, 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 clip. So often it is mainly in acute. So if you're not in that environment, then don't worry. But you know, it's got a lovely openness there. So it has lots of benefits, but it will limit you with certain styles, as I said.
One more.
Question?
With the double layer slings, are they as comfortable if using Coolmax in situ?
Okay, so now you are crossing over to the in situ section. So today was primarily just for standards. We do an in situ session, which I will cover all of that. But just to explain to all the other viewers, so we do certain styles in different fabrics that can be left in for extended periods. And this viewer has asked, we do a double layer of a certain fabric. The double layer is there to give extra strength and stability if you've got someone of a heavier weight. So single layer is quite stretchy, and stretches and stretches. Double layer will stabilise that to give a heavier weight. So what was the question? Is it more comfortable?
Yeah.
Again, it depends on the individual. Everything is down to the individual assessment, and that's what you guys then have to work it out. There are all these choices, which I know is confusing, but we give you these choices because there's so many different disabilities. So it's certainly one size doesn't fit all. So there are all these options. Fabrics do vary. The standard ones we've seen are solid and robust fabrics. The other fabrics, like the in situ superfine you've mentioned, has a bit of give, so they will naturally hug. They've got elastication in, so a very different type feel. Often more comfortable because they will then wrap around and follow the natural curvatures of the body. The Superfine Plus, which was the black space that we saw for the recline, that's spongy, bit more robust as well, so that would give support, but with that sponginess might be more comfortable. It
Especially
is
with delicate skin.
yeah, all
Anybody
about skin integrity. Let's
elderly.
think about that.
Right,
But certainly join the in situ session, which there's a prospectus on the website. I can't think offhand when it is. Ree's looking for me, but look, because there's other sessions we talk about in situ harnesses. Certainly you've got
13th of June.
13th of June is the next one. But if you've got a team that you think would be helpful, we can do a bespoke session for you so that we can then just touch on the things that are relevant. So we can build a session, very happy to do that. So, you know, please think about that if it will help you. But anything else, Ree? Just thank you very much for your time. I hope it's been helpful. We do have a another poster, which looks like this. I don't know if you've got it there, really. It's a selector. I don't know if you can see very clearly, but it's a little poster of all our range, thumbnail images of everything we do, and that's reflected on the website. We're very happy to get this to you because it will then give you an idea of what's available. And it's all in the families. It's listed in the families of shapes we've covered. So what my colleague will do is just send you a little bit of a feedback form, which, you know, it's always valuable to understand that, you know, we're providing you with the right type of service. So you can kindly let us have feedback, then we'll get you a selector poster out as well. But thank you very much to Judith, to Rhiannon, and for you for your time. And hopefully we'll see you in future sessions. So thank you very much.